For you bluegill enthusiasts, here's a tasty little offering called a Bully Bluegill Spider. It's incredibly easy to tie, and because of its action underwater, is nearly irresistible to bluegill and other panfish. You can tie the bully on a variety of hooks, but I prefer a standard wet fly hook, like a Lightning Strike NW1 in a size 12. A 10 is also a good choice. Begin by mashing the barb and getting the hook firmly secured in the jaws of your tying vise. For thread, UTC 70 Denier in black will work just fine. Start your thread on the hook shank above the point and take wraps rearward before snipping or breaking off the tag. Leave your thread about halfway between the hook point and the barb. With a size 12 hook, I like .015 lead-free wire for weight. Cradle the spool in the palm of your left hand, then attach the end of the wire to the top of the hook shank with wraps of tying thread. Continue taking thread wraps a short ways down the bend. Pass the wire spool to your right hand and begin making touching wraps with it up the hook shank. This allows you to easily wrap the wire with no waste. Go back over the initial wraps and then forward again to build up a little football of weight. Then use your thumbnail to cut the wire. No waste. For the body of the fly, standard sized ultra chenille works well. Here, I'm using a color called caddis green. It's a good idea to tie and carry this fly in a variety of colors, just in case you run into finicky bluegill. As with the wire, keep the chenille on the spool or card in this case, so there'll be no waste. Attach the very end of the chenille to the hook shank behind the wire and take thread wraps to secure it. Continue taking thread wraps over top of the weight and then build up a thread dam in front of it. The idea here is to get the weight really locked down and prevent it from sliding forward up the hook shank. Keep taking thread wraps all the way up to about an eye length behind the eye. Get hold of the chenille and start making touching wraps over the wire weight and up the shank toward the eye. When you reach your tying thread, use it to anchor the chenille to the hook shank. Make sure it's tied down really well so the end won't pull out and unravel. You can then reach in with your tying scissors and snip the chenille off close. Once again, there's no wasted material. Take a few more tight thread wraps to create a somewhat level landing pad for the next step. I like small round rubber legs as opposed to medium because of the extra movement they provide. Here I'm using black, but use whatever color you think might attract a bluegill's attention. After pulling free a single strand, fold over about 2 inches at one end to form a small loop. With the loop pointing forward, lay the material on top of the hook shank and secure it with a pinch wrap immediately behind the hook eye. Take a couple more thread wraps at this location to make sure it's well anchored. Sweep and stretch all the rubber leg material rearward and begin taking thread wraps to pin it back in that orientation. Continue making wraps to build up a small head on the fly. It doesn't have to be perfect. Bluegill usually aren't terribly picky. Snip the rubber legs so they're about 2 body lengths long, and then snip the midpoint of the loop to form 2 separate strands. You should be left with 4 rubber legs that project up and slightly back. Use your whip finish tool to do a 5 or 6 turn whip finish in order to secure your tying thread. When you're done, snip or cut the thread free. Although not absolutely necessary, a drop or 2 of head cement applied to the exposed thread wraps helps to increase the fly's durability. It's a good idea, as bluegill catching is oftentimes a quantity rather than quality affair. Ideally, the rubber legs should fan out in a nearly 180-degree arc around the fly. The key to this pattern is the way it sinks through the water, with the weighted butt end leading the way, and the rubber legs fluttering upward throughout the descent. It's an action bluegill just can't seem to resist. On a nice light fly rod, bluegill can be a ton of fun, and this fly all but ensures you're going to catch a bunch. I like to hang it a foot or 2 off the back of a floaty fly, like a Chernobyl ant, and after I cast, allow it to sink toward the bottom. The ant will telegraph even the slightest of takes, allowing you to set the hook and attach yourself to 5 or so inches of tail-walking, gill-plate rattling fury. If your summer plans call for a little farm pond fun, make sure you give the Bully Bluegill Spider a try.